Based on top 30 visits, prospect interviews, and how NFL teams are preparing for the draft coming up, here are some fantasy running backs that are at the most risk of being blown up and your fantasy football players may be in jeopardy. We'll start out with the running back ones that are in high jeopardy of losing their starting job. Then we'll go into the lower talent backfields that surprisingly going to be safe, and finish out this video with the number one most dangered running back of losing his job. He finished as the RB10 last year, but if you have him, you might want to consider going through and trading him. Make sure to stick around for that. But first things first, let's go through and set our groundwork. Why is it important to understand this? If we know what areas of an offense NFL teams are focusing on before the draft, we can anticipate them before they happen, which gives us an edge and lets us make moves before the general public. Think selling Debo before the fall off, selling CMC before all the injuries. So here are all the teams to start off that have already brought in at least 4 running backs for interviews. We can get all the way up to 10, 12, 15 in this list. As we go over this, guys, if you are new, please make sure to go through and subscribe to this channel. You're here for a reason, and I provide this value 100% for free all the way through the year. But first, the guy in danger here is going to be Joe Mixon in the Houston Texans backfield. They've had a visit with 7 running back prospects so far this year. Mixon is 3rd in active touches at 29 behind Derrick Henry and Zeke. He was 4th in running back volume, as well as having 12 touchdowns in 14 games, averaging 17.81 fantasy points per game. We can now assume that he probably won't come back as the true RB1 for the Texans this year because of all the visits they are having with top rookie prospects like Omarion Hampton, Quinshaw Judkins, Caleb Johnson, and more of those top guys. Like, this is already an insanely highly touted list when you have a top guy like Joe Mixon. We saw last year the Texans by week 14, Mixon's usage was kind of dropping in splits with Ogunbowale and Dameon Pierce, but we have to be completely fair about that and look at all of the information with this. He was dealing with multiple ankle injuries last year. That's why he was missing the time. But will they bring in a new number one workhorse Ashton Jeanty type of guy? No, that's not going to happen. But based on this information, you can assume the backfield is not going to be all his this season, combined with these top running back prospect visits they are already coming through with. Mixon owners should be a little bit worried. DeMeco Ryans wants to run the ball regardless of what the game script looks like. We saw that last year when Joe Mixon was healthy. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they go out and add another back. Maybe it's not a day 1 guy. Maybe it's a day 3 guy. Either way, I really do expect them to do that. Mixon's value right now is about the RB21. Depending on where or if they draft a running back, I could see that dropping significantly considering he's 29 years old this season. But if you have anybody in the Bears backfield, don't consider yourself safe either because they have had a lot of running backs with top prospecting grades coming to visit. DeAndre Swift, more than likely, if I was going to bet, is not going to be a lead back next year at some point in the season. Now, that shouldn't be too hard to believe because they did try to supplement Roschon Johnson and Travis Homer when he was healthy last year. Swift, he only had 2 games above a 75% snap share, averaging 3.7 yards per carry last season. His juke rate was terrible. He was the RB51 and the RB59 in true yards per carry last season, the RB35 in production premium. None of these are good for a quote-unquote starting running back, but his receiving statistics 100% were there. He was the RB8 in routes run per game. He was the RB5 in yards per reception, the RB23 in target share. So some of this running back efficiency can be blamed on the offensive line, and generally how bad the offense was as a whole, you can't blame all of that on him. But with visits from guys like Omarion Hampton, Ashton Jeanty, even Caleb Johnson, and Brashard Smith, all of these are top guys. You can assume it's not very likely DeAndre Swift will have a role in this backfield, and the value is already kind of depicting that. He's at the RB33 right now and dropping rapidly. I would try to sell him before everybody else realizes, because once they draft another running back this year, you're not going to be able to get anything for DeAndre Swift. So go out and send those offers. Surprisingly though, if you are rostering any of the Panthers running backs here, they've gone through and interviewed a lot of top prospects like RJ Harvey, Trayvon Henderson, and a few other guys. You may be in trouble, but as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't look too worrisome as far as their backfield goes because they do have a decent amount of running backs here. They have Chuba Hubbard coming off his best season. Jonathan Brooks, when he was healthy, is supposed to be a good guy. He's not very healthy though, which is the problem. They just brought in Rico Dowdle to solve that issue. And the fact that they're still scheduling interviews with running backs is insane. I wouldn't worry too much about this one, but if they really don't believe in Rico Dowdle, his contract wasn't too long, maybe these guys get replaced. Chuba Hubbard was good, but we'll see what happens. But another team like the Panthers here, the Giants, they went through and met with a good amount of running backs. You wouldn't think they need to go out and grab a top guy, but they've already met with 6 running backs, with guys like Ashton Jeanty, Quinshaw Judkins, and Cam Scatteraboo. As far as where they're drafting from, I don't see this making a ton of sense for them. Running back isn't something they necessarily need, especially considering Tracy was a very efficient running back last year. This makes me think maybe he's not built for an RB1 role. They probably will take a running back at some point. Is it going to be round 1, 2? Probably not, but Tracy, he was the RB12 in routes run last year, the RB24 in yards created per touch, the RB22 in production premium, and he was all doing that on a terrible Giants offense, but he is valued as the RB24 in Dynasty right now. The Giants took him with a 5th round pick in 2024, so there's definitely a chance that the RB24 is just waiting to fall because there's really no value contractual ties to him. Yes, he's valued in Dynasty, but they could go through and get another guy. I mean, they're supplementing him with Devin Singletary right now. Maybe they cut him out. Really want a 1-2 punch because not a lot of teams run a workhorse RB1 system. I would expect Tyrone Tracy to get a majority of the passing work and all of the third downs and receiving game stuff, but we'll see what kind of running back prospect they draft. Maybe they want a 3-down guy that's just going to get you the yardage. But speaking of that, there are 3 teams in the NFL right now that in my book and from what we've seen in the visiting prospects here are a true lock to bring in a top running back from the draft. These guys are the Cowboys, Steelers, and Broncos. Go check your fantasy rosters if you have any of these guys. The Cowboys met with 11 top running backs so far right now, and they have Javonte Williams that they just signed. They brought in Miles Sanders, 2 guys that they brought in with 1-year deals. So yes, they might be quote-unquote bigger names as far as, if you play fantasy football, you know who these guys are. But from a business perspective, they can replace these guys instantly. Again, they're on almost minimum contract 1-year deals. If they have one bad game, they could be out. Like, it really does not matter. Miles Sanders has been passed around for a while. Maybe they go out and draft a day 3 guy, see what he can do, kind of like Rico Dowdle was. The Steelers are another interesting one. From what I've seen, it looks like Jaylen Warren will stay as a role player at the running back position, as much as it does pain me to say because he has been great. He's averaging just under 5 yards per carry on the entire career that he's been in the NFL for. He was the RB9 in yards created per touch last season. It looks like he's primed for an RB1 spot, which is why his value is jumping to the RB30, especially with Najee Harris gone off the roster. His only competition is an old aging Cordero Patterson and Kenneth Gainwell, so this isn't exactly top competition, but that's exactly why they went out and interviewed the number 1 most running backs out of everybody in the NFL with 12. Literally every single top player was visited and interviewed for this team. The Broncos also went through and met with 9 running backs, which makes sense considering they just cut ties with Javonte Williams. Their RB1 at the moment is Audric Estime and Jaleel McLaughlin. It's a guarantee that they will use one of their top draft picks to go get a good running back because they're in a perfect position to do that. Bo Nix is still on his rookie contract for a good amount of time. Why not recycle with a running back as well and just build a really, really strong young core? Their defense is amazing, but there are a few teams that are extremely unlikely on the other side to go through and draft a running back. If you have guys on this team, you're probably going to be safe as far as the backfield is concerned. The safes are going to be number 1. No early running back visits from them. In my opinion, they do still have somewhat of a chance to grab a guy, but only if they end up falling in the draft. Again, it's not going to be a top prospect, but they have a lot of other needs to fill. If you look at their roster and their cap space situation, it looks like they should be a win now team. They're negative $25 million in cap space and the spending the most in the league. It will be a while until this team is good. Even if they do end up drafting a running back, I'm not buying in on it. In my opinion, Shedeur Sanders will be the new quarterback for the Saints. They're using their 1st round pick on that. He doesn't have any help though beside him, so statistically, the Saints have the 4th worst star factor game-changing players in the league. Because of this, I'm not buying in on Shedeur Sanders himself, but really any of these running backs long term. There is a chance that Alvin Kamara walks in the coming years, freeing up a spot for a young rookie running back, but I do think that's possible, similar to the reason why they drafted Kendre Miller in round 3 of 2023, but just as of now, there really isn't any long-term success tied to anybody on this team. So the Jets is another team that didn't really hold any top running back prospects for interviews. It makes sense. They have Breece Hall, they have Braylon Allen, 2 top guys that they just brought in over the past 2 years. The backfield is extremely safe from everything outside of what is already on that roster, but what you've been waiting for, the number 1 most dangerous backfield situation here based on draft information and what I've put together, their RB1 is at an extreme chance of being overtaken in the draft. He was the RB10 last season. He finished with 11 touchdowns. But again, could very well be replaced. It is going to be Chase Brown. Now, in my opinion, they should not go through and take a running back early. They have so many more needs than that. They need defensive players pretty much everywhere. And if you look at Chase Brown, he was efficient last season. He was the number 1 guy in volume after week 8. He was the RB19 in yards created and RB5 in receptions. But that was all relatively inflated. You have to look at these numbers at a broader perspective. The Bengals defense was allowing over 3 touchdowns per game and the number 1 most points per game allowed to opposing offenses. And you're just going to be playing from behind every time, which is what we saw, especially if you're a Bengals fan, you understand this. This led to Chase Brown being a PPR machine. He was situationally ballooning in fantasy football, which is why he's the overall RB 17 in value right now. That is insane. He's just not an RB1. They could definitely use a day 3 pick with a 4th round swing on a role player and a type of guy that can come in because the running back class is so deep this year. The only issue is that they're not looking at those day 3 late round guys. They're looking at day 2 Trayvon Hendersons and Caleb Johnsons already. Guys that can 100% come in and steal, honestly, a starting spot convincingly in a matter of time. Now, when we look at Brown, he's only 25 years old, so he has a lot of years left to play, whether that's with the Bengals or not. But he was a 5th round pick, almost 6th in the 2023 NFL draft. He's coming into his 3rd season. They could be looking to just recycle this cheap running back room, wait for the running back that they drafted to have to be on a contract year, and then just keep recycling, grabbing a new guy. But because of this and the situation they're in, the RB17, it is way too soon to put him at this value and be traded at this value. It's way too steep, and the situation is very risky. If they do so happen to draft a running back, his value is going to tank, and you want to be aware of that before it is too late. Let me know what you guys think about these players. I seriously appreciate you guys watching this video all the way through. All glory to the man above, and I will see you in the next video coming later this week.